Welcome back. In the last video, you started paying attention to your daily experience in a new way, tracking moments of joy, flow, energy, and curiosity, as well as the times you felt drained or switched off. You began to see these not as random feelings, but as data that can guide your Ikigai. Here in the 8th video in our Ikigai course, we're going to add a powerful tool to that process: language. The basic idea is simple but profound. If you can't name what you're experiencing, it's very hard to work with it. The more precise your words are for your inner world, for your states, your needs, your preferences, the easier it becomes to design a life and work that fit you. In this video, we'll explore how upgrading your inner vocabulary changes what you notice, how you make decisions, and how you update your Ikigai map. We'll also walk through a very practical way to start doing this, drawing directly on the reflections you've already begun. Let's start with a common situation. Imagine you ask someone, "How was your day?" and they say, "Fine," or "stressful," or "busy." Those words aren't wrong, but they're incredibly vague. Fine could mean calm, boring, content, numb, resigned, peaceful, or dozens of other states. Stressful could mean overloaded, anxious, overstimulated, pressured, rushed, or even excited in a challenging way. When your inner vocabulary is shallow, when most of your experience gets shoved into a few generic buckets like fine, good, bad, or stressful, you lose a lot of information. You can't tell the difference between tired because I did meaningful work and tired because I spent all day people-pleasing. You can't distinguish between bored because I've outgrown this and bored because I'm avoiding something hard but important. On the other hand, when you can say, "I feel quietly content," "I feel mentally overstimulated but physically sluggish," "I feel engaged but anxious about the deadline," or "I feel resentful because my boundaries were crossed," you have far more to work with. You're not just drowning in a vague sense of stress, you understand its flavor. That makes it much easier to know what to do next. The book calls this "name it to notice it." The basic principle is that language is a kind of map for your inner territory. If your vocabulary is limited, your map is fuzzy. You miss important distinctions. But as you expand your vocabulary and use it more precisely, your map becomes clearer. You can see where you are, where you've been before, and which direction you might want to move. So how do we actually upgrade this inner vocabulary? A great place to start is with the daily reflections you've already begun. You're already noting one energizing moment, one draining moment, and one curiosity each day. Now we're going to add a second step, finding better words for what was happening inside you during those moments. Let's say, for example, that your energizing moment yesterday was helping a colleague understand a new process. In your journal you wrote, "Felt good explaining the new system to Alex." That's a good start. Now we're going to unpack "felt good" into something more detailed. Ask yourself, in that moment, what kind of good was it? Did you feel confident? Did you feel useful? Did you feel proud? Did you feel playful? Did you feel deeply focused? Did you feel connected? Maybe you realize it wasn't just good, it was satisfying and grounding, or engaged and helpful, or playfully challenged. Those more specific words matter because satisfying and grounding might point you toward work where you bring order and calm to confusing situations, while playfully challenged might point you toward work where you can experiment and improvise. Now look at a draining moment. Maybe you wrote, "Team meeting was stressful." Again, let's unpack it. What kind of stressful was it? Did you feel confused because there was no clear agenda? Did you feel invisible because no one asked for your input? Did you feel trapped because it went on too long? Did you feel tense because of unspoken conflict in the room? You might land on words like scattershot, tense, aimless, overwhelming, or hollow. Each of these suggests a different problem. Aimless points to lack of structure. Tense points to unresolved issues. Hollow might mean you didn't see the point of the meeting at all. By moving from stressful to tense and aimless, you now know that what drains you isn't just meetings, it's unstructured, unresolved, directionless meetings. That's a much more useful distinction for designing your future. This process is a lot like sharpening a blurry photograph. At first, everything is fuzzy. You can tell if something is light or dark, but not much more. As you adjust the focus, that is, as you find better words, you start to see shapes, then details. Eventually, you can see enough to navigate. So, how do you find those better words, especially if you're not used to talking about your feelings or states? One simple method is to build two lists, a list of energizing words and a list of draining words. For the energizing list, think of times you felt really good in a grounded way, times of joy, flow, pride, or connection. Write down as many adjectives as you can that match those experiences. Words like engaged, focused, playful, stretched, competent, trusted, creative, calm, powerful, connected, curious, relieved, purposeful, alive. For the draining list, think of times you felt bad, not necessarily in crisis, but off. Words like numb, restless, scattered, trapped, invisible, overwhelmed, bored, resentful, tense, anxious, undervalued, confused, overextended. You don't need a perfect list right away. You can keep adding words over time as you encounter them in books, conversations, or your own reflections. The important thing is to start using these words deliberately when you describe your day. Here's how you can apply this practically with your daily journaling. When you write about your energizing moment, ask yourself, which of my energizing words does this moment match? Circle one or two. When you write about your draining moment, ask, which of my draining words fits this best? And circle those. Over a week or two, you'll start to see not just what activities energized or drained you, but how they did so. You might realize, for example, that you feel engaged and creative when you're designing something from scratch, but calm and grounded when you're fixing broken systems. Both are positive, but they're different. That difference can guide you. Maybe you want more of one and less of the other. You'll also notice repeated draining states. Maybe invisible shows up again and again in certain types of meetings or roles. Maybe scattered appears whenever your day is full of context switching. Maybe trapped shows up when you're committed to things that don't actually matter to you. Those patterns translate directly into design questions for your life. For example, how can I structure my day to have more focused, engaged, and creative time and less scattered context-switching time? Or, how can I move toward roles where I feel visible and valued instead of invisible? And this connects directly back to your Ikigai map. As your language becomes more precise, your what I love circle can move from vague things like, I like helping, to more distinct qualities like, I feel most alive when I'm in engaged, focused, one-on-one conversations where I can see someone's understanding shift. Your what drains me notes can help you see what you want to avoid building your life around, which is just as important. Here's another way language helps, in conversations with other people about your path. If you go to a mentor, a friend, or a coach and say, I'm just stressed, there's not much they can work with. But if you say, I notice that when I run workshops, I feel energized, confident, and connected. When I spend all day in unstructured status meetings, I feel invisible and tense. I want to move toward more of the first and less of the second. That's very different. Now you can brainstorm specific options, adjust roles, propose new projects, or even redesign your job. You also become much more compelling to potential employers, collaborators, or clients when you can talk about yourself this way. Instead of generic statements like, I like working with people, you can say, I do my best work in small group settings where I can listen carefully, reflect back what I hear, and help people see options they hadn't considered. That kind of clarity stands out. Let's pause here and connect this to a concrete example from the book's stories. Think about Sarah again. At first, she might have described her work as fine, and her internal state as a bit tired. As she paid closer attention, she realized that when she was doing pure accounting tasks, she felt numb and boxed in. When she was sitting with clients, explaining their financial options in plain language, she felt engaged, useful, and human. By naming those differences clearly, numb and boxed in versus engaged and useful, She could see that her Ikigai wasn't in accounting as a generic category. It was in translating complex financial information into human language that helped people make better decisions. That's a very specific form of love and strength. It gave her a much clearer path to explore. Now you might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of introspection. Is it really necessary? Here's why I believe it is. You can't build a life that fits you if you don't know yourself. And you can't really know yourself if all your inner experiences are filed under a few big, blurry labels. Language isn't just for talking to other people. It's also how you talk to yourself. When you upgrade that language, you upgrade your inner conversations, and that changes what you notice, what you decide, and how you act. So, here's a simple step-by-step you can commit to after this video. Step 1. Choose or build a small list of energizing words and draining words that feel relevant to you right now. You can always expand it later. Step 2. For the next week, continue the daily reflection you started in the last video. One energizing moment, one draining moment, one curiosity. Step 3. Each time you write about an energizing or draining moment, pick 1 or 2 words from your lists that best describe how you felt. Step 4. At the end of the week, look back and see which words keep repeating. Highlight them. Then ask, what do these repeating states tell me about the environments, tasks, and roles that fit me, or don't? Step 5. Update your Ikigai map with any new insights. Maybe you add more specificity to the what I love circle. Maybe you make a little note next to certain items like, this tends to give me a creative, playful feeling, or this tends to leave me feeling invisible. This might sound simple, but if you do it consistently, it will change how you think about your life. In future videos, when we start designing small experiments and offers, this sharper language will be incredibly helpful. You'll be able to aim your experiments at things that truly resonate with your deeper states, not just ideas that sound good in theory. Before we wrap up, I want to address one more subtle point: honesty. It can be uncomfortable to admit certain inner states. For example, you might not want to admit that you feel resentful about parts of your job, or jealous of people doing work you wish you were doing, or ashamed that you're bored in a life that should be enough. But honesty is what gives your words power. If you only name the states you think you're supposed to have, motivated, grateful, fine, you'll create a map that describes who you think you should be, not who you are. Ikigai isn't about building a life for your idealized self. It's about building a life that fits your real self. That requires courage. So, as you expand your inner vocabulary, let it include the uncomfortable words too. Not to wallow in them, but to see them clearly enough that you can move through them. You might, for example, notice that you often feel resentful and trapped when you say yes to things out of obligation. That tells you something. It tells you that learning to set boundaries is not just a nice idea, it's essential to your well-being. Or you might notice that you feel alive and proud when you complete something hard. That tells you that challenge is an important ingredient in your Ikigai, not something to avoid. Language turns vague discomfort into specific guidance. It turns vague longing into specific desire. It turns vague hope into specific plans. In the next lessons, we're going to combine everything you've gathered so far, your experiences, your language, your first Ikigai map, and start looking at your strengths and mastery, what you're good at, how you got there, and how you can redeploy that career capital toward more aligned work. For now, your task is to keep noticing, keep naming, and keep updating your inner map. You are building a richer, more detailed vocabulary for your own life. And with every new word you add, you gain a little more power to shape that life on purpose. You're doing deep, important work here, even if it's just a few lines in a notebook each night. Stay with it. It's how you turn insight into change. I'll see you in the next video.